views expressed on this program are those of the hosts, guests, and callers, and are not necessarily those of this station, its management, or other advertisers. You're listening to Transformation Talk Radio.
Welcome to Cultural Brilliance Radio, the DNA of organizational excellence with Claude Rowley. Conversations that are transforming the world of culture and business. Claudette brings fresh, innovative perspectives that push the boundaries of what organizational cultures can and should be. Learn how to catalyze your organization's workforce into an authentic, intentional, and financially successful culture. Now here's your host, Claudette Rowley.
Hey everybody, this is Claudette Rowley, and you are listening to Cultural Brilliance, the DNA of organizational excellence on Transformation Talk Radio. Stay with us for the next hour and let us help you experience some groundbreaking ways to transform your company's culture. Twice each month, we have some of the foremost experts on organizational culture and leadership, helping you understand how to make a brilliant culture the rule rather than the exception. Today, I'm really excited about our guest, who is Claude Silver, who is the Chief Heart Officer of VaynerMedia. And she and I are going to be talking about how to create a culture of belonging. So let me introduce Claude. She is VaynerMedia's first Chief Heart Officer, and she helps to unlock employees' potential by forging human-to-human connection, creating cultures of belonging, and empowering teams to be purpose-driven, efficient, and strong. And then she infuses the agency with empathy, humanity, and joy. Claude's unique perspective on servant leadership and team building comes from her training in positive psychology and her experience in talent management, leadership development, coaching, workplace culture, and people operations for over 800 employees across VaynerX. She also founded and ran an outdoor adventure and surf company in San Francisco, where she was in the cold Pacific Ocean coaching 250 days a year. Now that's impressive. Prior to VaynerMedia, Claude held leadership positions in Publicis London, J. Walter Thompson, and Organic San Francisco. She and her partner live in New York City and are expecting a baby girl in late October. Welcome, Claude.
Hi, Claudette. Great to be here. Thank you.
Oh, I'm so glad you're here. I've been looking forward to this.
Likewise.
Absolutely. So one of the things that you're a Chief Heart Officer. And not many people get to be a Chief Heart Officer. So tell us, what does that mean for listeners who are thinking, that's interesting. What does she do?
Yeah. So in any other organization, that would most likely be called the Chief People Officer. But the difference here is that my one remit is to reach every single employee and infuse the agency with empathy. That is actually my job description. The reason that we call HR Heart here is because, quite frankly, we're dealing with human beings who have a heart. And culture is the heartbeat of an organization. So Chief Heart Officer is very much incorporating the people, their experience, the culture, and really the DNA, if you will, of the agency.
Mm-hmm. So infusing empathy, what are some of the ways, just a couple of the ways you do that?
So in spending time with people in one-on-ones, I'm able to talk to them, listen to them, understand where their limiting beliefs are, understand the level of their self-awareness or their EQ. Are they collaborators? Are they we, not I people? Or are they more bullies, competitive, personality traits that might not exactly be what the majority of people have here? So I spend a lot of time with people helping them to find their own self-awareness. Mm-hmm. Because if one can have self-awareness of self, then one can more easily understand what someone else is going through, which is empathy.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I was really lucky to hear Claude speak actually twice, 2 years in a row at different conferences. And at the most recent one, the Wisdom Conference in Santa Fe in August, I remember you talking about that one way to think about empathy too is sometimes we're just having different human experiences. I'm paraphrasing, but that I could have an experience and you could have an experience and they're both completely valid.
That's correct. And here, we're an advertising agency, although it doesn't matter where you are working, where we're human beings. And and it's so important for me to know what's going on with you, whether or not it's at work or in life, just as it's important for you to know what's going on with me, just as it's important to know why that person might be crying in the bathroom and maybe they have a family issue. Because, I mean, life takes over, and that's the most important thing, is what is happening with us, so that we can understand how to support you, guide you, groom you, if you will, to be your best.
Absolutely. And I know when I talk to some leaders in organizations, they're still grappling with this idea of people bringing their whole selves to work. That if someone's crying in the bathroom, for example, well, I'm sorry you feel bad, but this is work. So it's a different kind of an attitude.
Yeah, that really is. I mean, in fact, the other day, so my CEO is a man named Gary Vaynerchuk, who's pretty well known in the marketing world today. And the other day he was going down the elevator, and once he got to the bottom of the elevator, he called me. So that's 30 seconds. And he said, I noticed there was someone crying to another person in the elevator bank. Go find out what's going on.
Wow.
I mean, that's how high touch it is.
Yeah.
Our CEO, who's going a million miles an hour. And sure enough, they were having an issue. They had received difficult feedback from a manager, and that obviously opens up a lot of can of worms. But that's how high touch, tight, and that's how important every single heartbeat is here. To be silly and cliche, my main goal here is to bring more humanity, to bring the human back into corporate culture, and to bring the human back into HR.
Yeah, I've even heard people recently on shows that I've been hosting talking about rehumanizing the workplace, right? Using that word, of really bringing that humanity back. So I'm curious, did you give yourself the title Chief Heart Officer, or is that something the organization said, we need one of these?
No, it's something that Gary and I had spoken about. He and I are very much two sides of the same coin, extremely optimistic folks that believe in people. The way he presents himself is different than the way I present myself. But we both knew that heart. We were very keyed in on the word heart being the soul of this company. And so he said, I want you to be Chief Heart Officer. And I knew what that meant. I think intuitively I knew what that meant. And what I said to him is, that is great. I'm so honored. I'm not HR. I don't come from an HR background. And he said, absolutely fine. And we will hire around you, which has been amazing. And it is a real testament to what we place a priority and emphasis on here at VaynerMedia. It's a meritocracy. People do come first. And we are teaching hard skills, and we are teaching life skills.
Yeah, and one of the things that sometimes I pop on LinkedIn, and I'll see you have a new video up, a short video with a message. And one of the things I've been noticing, I'm sure I've missed many of them, but noticing in the few I've seen lately, is this message around people being responsible for their own growth and development.
Yeah.
But as much as the organization is helping that and creating that environment, that people are responsible.
Yeah. I've been really hot on that topic, as you can see. And I think a couple reasons. One, it just dawns on me as I'm working with and for enormous amounts of millennials, and I love that generation, that population, that there is a sense of, well, you're going to get me there, right? And yes, we will help guide you. We will 1000% be the guide, but you are the hero of your own story. So if you are the hero, then you need to pull up your boots. You need to gather your tools, and you need to set out and go forward. You have choice. And I think it's an amazing thing when you leave adolescence and you get into deep adulthood, and you recognize that you can make a left or right turn. You can cook whatever you want for dinner. No one's stopping you. You can choose to grow, and you can choose to stagnate. And that's really, really important. We can only do so much, and we will do all of that. But you've got to give us an opening, and you've got to take the ball and run with it, rather than waiting for the soccer ball to be passed to you. You've got to go for the ball. So yes, as you can tell, I'm very hot on that topic.
It's an important topic, because I think there's a bit of nuance. Sometimes there's all this emphasis on culture, and people wanting to work in great cultures. And I think they sometimes forget they have a hand in it. They have to meet everybody halfway, in their own growth and development.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
And the thing that I say often, Claudette, is, culture does stem from the top. I do believe that when Gary said 9.5 years ago, this will be a people-first organization, that was very important. It takes people to grow and foster this culture. It can't rely on him, and it can't rely on me. But it certainly is helpful when you have a me, or you have a culture team, or you have incredible leaders who are willing to get into the dirt and cultivate with you and plant the flowers and take care of the garden. I mean, I think people learn by experience and inspiration. Yeah. So that's what we're trying to do. But it's culture is everyone's responsibility.
That's such an important message. I think it is everyone's responsibility. Yeah, not just the leaders. And one of my favorite stories recently in some culture consulting work I've been doing with a company, manufacturing company, and there's a gentleman who's worked there for 25 years in production on the manufacturing floor, and he had been, for years they had asked him to do, he's a supervisory role sort of, but they had asked him to do something more that they saw he could grow and evolve, and he just not interested. No, I'm just doing this. And then we started a whole culture project with our company, and he was asked to be on the culture when we did all the assessment work. Then we were getting to this planning piece. And so I said, I need a team to work with me. And so I said, ask Tom if he'll be on the team. And so he came onto the team, and I said, wow. And he had been asked to support the initiative, which he agreed to do. And all of a sudden, this guy who was not willing to grow and just wanted to do what he was doing had amazing ideas, like amazing ideas. And I said to the CEO, I think he's been really underutilized. I mean, you talk to this guy for 5 minutes and you see his intelligence, you see his ideas, you hear, he's articulate, all this. And so he's become like the big ambassador and ally in this whole process. And it's the thing that it sounds like one of the things we have in common is that joy for seeing people evolve that way when they've decided to do it. They were given an opening. So,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So it's pretty amazing to see that. Yeah. Yeah. Why don't we take a quick break? And when we come back, we're going to talk more specifically about how do we create a culture of belonging, and what is VaynerMedia doing about that, in addition to having a great chief heart officer. So you're listening to Cultural Brilliance, the DNA of organizational excellence. I'm Claudette Rowley. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Conscious Confidence Radio, a timeless wisdom with Sarah Main. Tune in each month on Transformation Talk Radio and join Sarah on an adventurous journey to the deeper level of meaning to move beyond today's world of constant change, confusion, and uncertainty beyond the shadow of fear. This hit show explores key concepts such as confidence, values, and attitude in a dynamic way. To learn more about Sarah and her work, visit sarahmain.com.
Stay juicy. Tune in to Your Juicy Love with me, Una Drake, co-hosting monthly with Dr. Pat, and every second Monday at 12 p.m. on Transformation Talk Radio. My show, Your Juicy Love, helps you find the dynamic, life-affirming love you've always wanted. Transform your relationships and bring peace, joy, and juicy, juicy love to planet Earth. For more information, visit unadrake.com.
Demystifying the Journey on From Here to There Radio with your host, Diane Garris. Tune in every third Wednesday, 4 p.m. Pacific Time on TransformationTalkRadio.com as Diane helps you get from where you are now to the life you envision. Get ready to get unstuck and move forward. Every show features a new special segment, New Age Notes, demystifying hot metaphysical topics of the day. For more information or to work with Diane, visit DianeGarris.com.
On the cutting edge of the new mainstream, Christine Upchurch is passionate about bringing together science, psychology, and spirituality in a way that can be applied to our everyday lives for true transformation. The Christine Upchurch Show, stellar conversations to illuminate your journey, engages some of the most outstanding visionaries on the planet in lively dialogue to inspire you to become that bright light you're meant to be. Join Christine every Friday at 11 a.m. Pacific Time on KKNW, AM 1150, and Transformation Talk Radio.
This is Debbie Pokornik with a moment for standing in your power. Self-control begins with noticing how different feelings present themselves in your body. When you're feeling sensitive, for example, your chin might quiver, tears might well up in your eyes, and your voice might catch in your throat. Anger, on the other hand, might appear as tension in your jaw, back, or arms, along with clenched fists, heat in the upper torso, scowling, and a strong desire to yell. The more aware you become of your body cues, the easier it will be to recognize when you're on the road to disaster. Choose the emotions that cause you problems, then start noticing and logging the body cues that come with them.
For information and to work with Debbie, visit empoweringnrg.com. That's empoweringnrg.com.
We're back on Cultural Brilliance, the DNA of Organizational Excellence. I'm Claudette Rowley. And for those of you just joining us, my guest today is Claude Silver, who is the Chief Heart Officer of VaynerMedia. So Claude, we were just talking about how much fun it is and how joyful it is when we see people start to grow. They're given an opportunity by the organization and they take it and run with it. Yeah. And it's pretty amazing. And is that, when you talk about a culture of belonging, is that part of it, or is it more than that?
Well, that's definitely the soil, I think. So I think a lot about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And as we know, at the bottom, it's safety, security, shelter. And right above that is belonging. And it's no, I'm not a genius to say that human beings are wired to connect and we are wired to belong to one another and with one another. So it's super important that we're creating a place here where people feel like they belong, where they feel emotionally safe, where they feel courageous, where they feel obviously physically safe, because we want people to come in and that we want them to, we don't want people to feel other.
Yeah.
In that negative way of other. We want, if you are a person of color, you see other people of color. If you're LGBTQ, we have a pride group. I mean, if you are someone that describes himself as Latino, we have a Amigos squad for you. So creating a place where people can just be, oh my gosh, I can just let down my guard a little bit and get into it is job number one, 1,000%. I do think for us, all cultures have emotions. Our culture happens to be one of camaraderie, one of friendliness, one of meritocracy, as I said, and also collaboration. People want to work with one another and they want to brainstorm with one another. Excuse me. I think, it's a creative agency. So we do believe and we say out loud that ideas come from anywhere. Right there, that is, we're raising our hands to say, come play with us. You're here. You made it through the door. Willy Wonka gave you the golden ticket.
Yeah.
Cool. We want you here. Come collaborate with us. And I think that on top of creating a place where people belong is an incredible, again, more fertile soil for people to dig in. There's no foosball table here. We don't have open tap. It's not about giving freebies. You're lucky if you find some almonds in the cupboard. But it's about a real desire to be here and at this agency because we are going someplace. There's a lot of momentum and energy in this place.
Yeah. And I could feel that just coming into your office, sitting out in the lobby. There's energy. It feels very positive. Right? People are walking. When they're walking with some speed and energy, like they have some place they need to get to and be and do and all of that. So I could sense that just for the few minutes. And I think what you said about good ideas can come from everywhere, can come from anywhere. And it reminded me of, and I know it's different here, but in some organizations, right, that will be said, like, good ideas can come from anywhere. There are quotes around it, but that's really not true.
There were no air quotes when I said it.
Yeah, no, of course. But I know it's true here at VaynerMedia. And how does that, do you have an example of how that plays out? Like someone who had an idea that maybe was really unexpected that everybody ran with.
Yeah. So I want to just back up and say one of the reasons we have that culture here is because our CEO, Gary Vaynerchuk, is an entrepreneur. He is a person of yes. He is someone that sees possibility. Mm-hmm. He's creating his own businesses right, left, and center. And so when you have that in the water stream already, and side hustles are appreciated here, I think there's also an opening for your creativity to flourish. And so we've had a person come in here one day, an employee, and say, this was 2.5 years ago, 3 years ago, I know voice is going to be the biggest thing. Mm-hmm. This is why I know voice is going to be the biggest thing. This is a case study on it. And now we have a whole voice department. Oh, wow. And he's running it.
Yeah.
Same with e-commerce. Uh-huh. We had someone come in, this is maybe 4 years ago, and align with Gary, and e-commerce is what you want to be building here so that you can take your Fortune 10, Fortune 50 CPG companies and help them along their sales pipeline. Mm-hmm. Okay, well, we have a very vibrant e-commerce division. Mm-hmm. And then also, funny enough, Gary himself jumps in on brainstorms and comes up with creative ideas that are now, on Budweiser's World Series ads and stuff.
Yeah. So it's just baked into everything, it sounds like.
Yeah. Also, Claudette, I don't have a job description. Mm-hmm. I'm creating this job as I go, based around my personality, but based around what I believe culture needs today and what I believe, most importantly, human beings need. Mm-hmm. And so we allow for a lot of career architecting here. Yeah. There's certainly a job to be done and responsibilities, but you do not have to be apples to apples with the other account directors that you're with or the other art directors. You do it your way. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so there's something really, about, like you said, archetyping some of your own path, and there's really, it sounds like there's a lot of freedom and flexibility to just bring all of who you are, as you mentioned. Yeah. And it's an interesting take on belonging, because a lot of times when I hear folks talk about belonging, they're talking literally about feeling that they're part of something. And this it sounds like this goes a step further to really benefit the business incredibly. Yeah. Right.
And it is, we put so much emphasis on people, which then in return gives us success with the consumer, gives us success with the client, gives us success with the agency. Mm-hmm. You notice I said consumer first. I didn't say client. Yeah. We are all about fulfilling that consumer, the end consumer's wants and desires, much more than a client.
Yeah. Okay. That's a great distinction. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I'm curious, how much of your, roughly speaking, how much of your day do you spend in coaching sessions and one-on-ones? Is that a lot of what you're doing? Yeah, I would say 50%. I think there's some days where it might be 80%. Some days where I am, a day like today, I've got a lot of people operations going on. We're in review cycle.
Oh, okay. Comp strategies and reviews and increases. And then some days I'm just coaching completely. And then there are days where it's 20% and I miss it so much. Oh, yeah. Because I'm just busy in leadership meetings. But I get to do quite a bit of it, and it's never the same, as you well know. When each and every human is different, even though many of us have very similar limiting beliefs. We're made differently.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. So other aspects of belonging that we haven't touched on that you focus on a lot here?
Yeah. Quite frankly, one of the things I'm extremely proud of is we are launching something called Vayner Allies. Oh. Vayner Allies is a group of 20 people, myself included, who have been trained for 6 weeks by a psychotherapist who concentrates in cultural competency. Mm-hmm. So he's a PhD from Fordham University. He has come in and he has trained us in depth, not only on unconscious bias and microaggression, oppression, entitlement, how to deal with other, because there's a lot of other. And the idea here is that people will go to the Vayner Ally person and have what we're calling courageous conversations. And it's an incredible way for people, I hope, to start to bring up things that makes them feel uncomfortable, or gosh, it's a little bit off, but I don't think I need to go to HR. But God, that made me feel a little bit funny. Can I talk to someone about it? So we're just about to go live with this in a few weeks. I'm really psyched, and my hope is that it further extends the web of feeling like people can belong in a deeper way. So I'm really excited about that. I mean, we live we're a microcosm of the macrocosm, not only in New York City, a political climate, the world. And so what happens outside of these walls affects the people in here in absolutely. A great way.
Yeah.
So we want to make sure that we can hold those people and hold space for those people and in the ways that human beings need it.
Yeah, it sounds like what an amazing program, right? I look forward to hearing how it goes because it sounds fascinating, right? The Vayner Allies, right?
Yeah.
And in terms of, I just remember in the couple of presentations that I have seen you talked a lot about empathy, and I know you've touched on that, but that seemed to be a real cornerstone of almost everything in a way.
It is. Yeah. I have to say it really is. In fact, it's a word that we use a lot here. It might even be overused, but but I don't think one can ever have too much. So I'm okay that the cup is overflowing.
Yeah.
When I talk about team building, which is a way you've probably heard me talk about empathy quite a bit, I believe, and we operate in teams here, and we do in the world as well. Connection is a massive part of, I think, step one of building a strong team. Step two is trust. And once you connect, you build trust. And when you start to trust someone and let down your guard a bit, you start to care. And the care part is empathy. And again, I can't really care that deeply if I'm not in touch with what I'm feeling, and most of us are. But that empathy is a massive flag that we plant here in terms of one of our values and what we always come back to. Not only is it, it's a guide. It's really a guide for us. And it comes in different shapes and sizes. I mean, if you're being micromanaged, well, I don't know if that's too empathetic. That sounds like it's controlling to me. So, okay, I know how to steer the ship back to empathy. I know how to work with that manager who might be micromanaging you to find out, like, where is the insecurity coming from? So again, it's like a rudder for us.
Yeah, it's on rudder. I was also getting this image of like that, the way you're just describing it. That's a door that opens to a lot of other things.
Yeah.
Right. That you just shared a couple of examples. Like if you have a manager who's micromanaging you, getting to the bottom of that.
Right. Yeah. It's something I can always go back to and say, okay, are we taking care of that person where they are? Are we meeting that person where they are and being sensitive to whatever it is that they're going through? And of course, like within means, of course, we have to get work done. I mean,
of course,
but when we start to treat each other as humans and not titles and not hierarchical managers, and just like how we treat our friends, treat our cousins, or I just think it seems so easy, and I know it's not. I do.
Yeah. It's easy and it isn't. Yeah, it's easy and it isn't. So we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more about empathy and growth and development. I have a bunch of questions I'm really excited to ask Claude based on what we just chatted about. You're listening to Cultural Brilliance Radio. I'm Claudette Rowley. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Are you ready to stop stress, anxiety, and low self-esteem from running your life? Join award-winning author Dr. Friedemann Schaub for Empowerment Radio and learn breakthrough solutions to switch out of survival mode and approach every day with great ease, joy, and purpose. Tune in the first and third Wednesday at 11 a.m. Pacific to Empowerment Radio with host Dr. Friedemann Schaub on Transformation Talk Radio. Visit thefearandanxietysolution.com to learn more.
Tune
Tune in to Knowledge Book Radio with host Marge Potasic each Tuesday at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern on TransformationTalkRadio.com. Through many experiences, Marge was led to the Knowledge Book, a gift to humanity in its transition to the Golden Age, and it provided the truth and the answers. She now shares information from the Knowledge Book with you each week on TransformationTalkRadio.com. For more information, visit usa.theknowledgebook.net.
High-frequency healing for an amazing life with Source Light Radio. Join host Laura Barton each month on Transformation Talk Radio as she explores Source Light integration, a unique spectrum of energy, light, and frequency. Experience instantaneous healing and amazing shifts in consciousness with Source Light Integrations Radio. For more information on Laura and her work, visit sourcelightintegrations.com.
Hi, I'm Barbara Scheidegger, clinical hypnotherapist and founder of Swiss Hypnotherapy. My goal is to help you to reach your goal, and this is a tip with purpose. Everybody wants it, and nobody has enough of it. But it comes to a point that you have to tell yourself, I can get more. I want more. I deserve more. I'm talking about money. More money, more money, more money. That's what people want. But what has to be done? Your thoughts have to change. That you can allow yourself to tell yourself, I have money and I want more money. How much money? What is it? Put it out there. Write it down. What would you do with more money? How would you feel to have more money? I hope this tip helps you going through the day-to-day. You can reach me at 323-999-4775 or at my website at swisshypnotherapy.com.
Join Jennifer Noel Taylor on the hit show Quantum Touch Radio, supercharging your life on TransformationTalkRadio.com. You'll take a quantum journey as we reveal powerful yet simple steps to create more abundance, better health, emotional and mental vibrancy, and happier relationships using universal quantum touch principles. For more information, visit JenniferNoelTaylor.com.
We're back on Cultural Brilliance Radio. I'm Claudette Rowley, here with my guest today, Claude Silver, who's the Chief Heart Officer at VaynerMedia, and we are talking about creating cultures of belonging. And Claude, just before the break, you were starting to share more about empathy in a deeper way and how that plays out here, right, at VaynerMedia. And one of the things I was really curious about is sometimes I feel in organizations, because it's work, right, somehow it's different. And I'm speaking generally, so a lot of companies that take a different approach like you are, but because it's work, if you have a manager that's micromanaging, for example, they actually don't receive empathy, they receive judgment, right? Unless the culture thinks micromanagement's great, then they're praised. But let's say the culture doesn't, the organization doesn't. So then they receive judgment and criticism. What's wrong with this person? How should we handle them? And you're taking a completely different approach, it sounds like.
Yeah. We really do our best to. And another example is we have dealt with a bully. This bully happens to be, and I'm going to couch what I'm going to say in a second, but the bully happens to be a high performer.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the fact is a high performer can't be a bully, and a bully can't be a high performer.
Mm-hmm.
Those two things are actually not synonymous.
Yes.
And that's something that we've had to break apart.
Right.
As we've grown, and we're 800 now, as we've grown, we've brought in a lot of people with a lot of tenureship and experience and gusto and ready to crush it. And and sometimes that comes with ego.
Yeah.
And that is just a no-go here.
Mm-hmm.
It is a no-go. And the ego comes into controlling, comes into I'm too big for my britches, or I will silence you in meetings. And, my hope is that we're starting to get that out of the water stream, but it happens as we've scaled. It happens everywhere. And again, it's something we can go back to, which is like, those two things are not synonymous. And there really isn't a place for bullying here. again, it happens, but why is it happening?
Yeah.
Does that person just really feel unseen? And, whatever, we can get into the psychology of that. But we really try our best to help people kind of come down from there and see that we're all in it together. There's so much possibilities. Things are so good here.
Mm-hmm.
And 99% of the things that we all moan about really don't matter.
Mm-hmm.
Like let's just focus on the 1%. And by the way, the 1% probably isn't even the client deliverable if you think about it.
Mm-hmm.
The 1% is this. It's relationship. It's people. That is the game.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And an interesting point around the bully who's the high performer, which I also hear in organizations sometimes. Oh, but he just, he has the biggest account. I'm thinking of an actual example.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's really interesting that you all have been able to pull it apart and say, you can't be bullying high performance. This just can't happen simultaneously.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, once I did make a LinkedIn post about that, and obviously it was anonymous. And a senior person called me to talk about that post.
Oh, yeah.
And I thought it was really interesting. And they were actually talking about someone else. So I said, oh, no, I'll get to that person
next. Yeah, right.
Yeah. But it happens. It
does.
New York City, it's advertising. It's, a lot of very, very smart high performers here.
Right. You probably had to do work hard and compete, right, to get to certain places. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So we take empathy a step further, right? And you've used phrases like, how are we taking care of someone? And if they're having a hard time, maybe and it's showing up in how they're treating other people. It sounds like one of the first steps is to actually inquire from the point of empathy, what's happening for them.
Yeah. And so that is, if that's something their manager feels comfortable doing, has been trained to do, is competent to do, that is a great place to start. If not, it ends up trickling my way.
Okay.
My hope is that we train enough of our managers to be able to catch that and work with that individual.
Right.
And if not, we'll figure it out.
Yeah, yeah. And is that something folks here do get trained on? Is the empathy and having challenging conversations and all of that?
Yeah. So I used Kim Scott's book, Radical Candor.
Oh, yeah.
And I Vaynerized it, if you will. And we went through an extensive training, Q4 of 17 into Q1. And I'll do it again starting soon.
Okay.
And roll it out. And so it's how to have courageous conversations, but how to have personal conversations, care personally about someone, but challenge them directly. Because it's so easy to coddle.
Yeah.
And coddling certainly doesn't grow a person.
No, I'm familiar with the book Radical Candor, and the phrase that sticks in my mind that she talks about is ruinous empathy.
Yeah.
Which is great.
It is a great phrase.
And there is that aspect of empathy, right? That can become ruinous, to use her word, where people say, well, I just don't want to hold so-and-so accountable to have this conversation because they're having such a hard time. And you're talking about something, I just want to unpack that for a minute, because you're talking about something else here when you say empathy.
Yeah, I am. I am. When you withhold feedback and do not give another person feedback because of fear, because I don't want to have that hard conversation, or I might stumble in my conversation, you're manipulating that person's growth. You're holding that person back from growing.
Yeah.
And that is a no-no.
Right.
And yet we all do it. I'm certainly not saying we're perfect. It is something that I have to massage constantly. Right. And I need to do it too.
Yeah.
But we don't want to build a culture which is around coddling, because then we aren't growing our B's into A's, or our A's into A pluses, or creating the leaders of tomorrow who are going to go run Nike in 10 years or 15 years,
Yeah. Yeah. Great distinction. I think it gets confusing for some people. What are we really talking about with empathy?
For sure.
Yeah. So along those lines, when people are growing and developing, right, and responsible for that with assistance, are there particular ways? Is that more of a case by case, or do you also have ways in which you're working with folks, through trainings or group coaching, or?
Yeah. Funny enough, we just piloted a coaching program here with 7 people. It's a telephone coaching.
Okay.
And we're just doing a focus group, wrap-up focus group with them next week to see how it was. 4-month program. Mm-hmm. I'm a proponent, and I do think it would be a wonderful benefit to bring in for people. Obviously expensive, but I do think there's a lot of value in it. We have rolling learning and development programs here, curriculums. It's interesting because I used to work at publicly traded companies for my whole life. And now we're an independent company where I get to work with someone and create the L&D programs, which is really fun.
Yeah.
So we do everything from management training 101, 102, leadership training, radical candor feedback training, presentation training, facilitation training. Each and every department does their own niche training. Of course, if you're a creative, you're going through whatever the training is there. If you're on the media team, you're learning how to place Facebook ads, targeting ads, that kind of stuff. Gary also is about to do his own type of training module with the senior leaders here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, which will probably be around selling, quite frankly, you know, and gearing us up and helping people really, whether or not it's identify the signs, client relationship 101. So, yeah, so we do a lot of training here, and then we do bespoke things. Yesterday, someone just came into my office and said, "I had a terrible conversation with this person that I manage. Can you unwind it for me?" You know, so that was kind of on the spot.
Yeah. That must be fun.
It's a lot of fun.
I like on the spot things.
Yeah.
Have that challenge. Yeah.
It's a lot of fun, especially when you have that moment to kind of empty your mind of whatever it is you're doing and focus in on a challenge that it's not personalized to me, but I can empathize with that person and know exactly what it's like to have a difficult conversation where your voice might shake.
Yes.
You know, I've been there.
Absolutely. Me too. Yeah, absolutely. So it's great to hear how it's woven through the learning development throughout the company, right? And so it sounds like it's just woven into the fabric, right? The belonging, the empathy, helping people grow and develop, take responsibility for that.
Find their purpose, find meaning in their work, achieve something, be proud of where they work, be proud of the work that they're doing. That's super, super important. I mean, that's employee fulfillment right there.
Yeah, that need to achieve recognition and appreciation, right? Two of the biggest motivators. I'll sometimes say to folks in organizations, I'll remind them, people do not come to work to do a bad job. Most people do not get up and say, I'm just not going to do much today.
Yeah.
They just really don't. They feel bad when they make mistakes.
Yeah. People want to work.
They do. Yeah. They do. It gives us purpose and meaning and achievement outside of our personal lives, right?
Absolutely.
Something else there for sure. Yeah. So we're going to go ahead and take a quick break. You're listening to Cultural Brilliance Radio. I'm Claudette Rowley, here with my guest, Claude Silver. When we come back, we'll talk about recommendations for your companies. You're listening today and thinking, wow, it would be great to apply some of what I've heard. And in my organization, I'm not really sure where to start. So stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Did you know that all of the shows on the Transformation Radio Network are available as podcasts to stream or download?
Really?
Check us out. Go to transformationradio.fm. We have business shows, spiritual shows, energy healing shows, and pretty much everything in between. Something for everyone, guaranteed to inspire, educate, and transform. We are transforming the world, one listener at a time.
What is holding you back from living the life you are meant to live? Why is it vital to believe in something bigger than yourself? Are you in physical or emotional pain? Tune in monthly to Vibrant Purposeful Living. Awaken the vibrant life within you with Lou Paradise and Dr. Pat on TransformationTalkRadio.com. Lou's passion is to help everyone experience positive solutions for life. Find out more about Lou with Vibrant Purposeful Living at LouParadise.com.
Love Living Radio Ignite Your Whole Being with Emily Perkins is a show for those looking to explore the sparkling magnificence of their inner selves. Tune in every second and fourth Wednesday at 4 p.m. Pacific as Emily sheds a radiant light of love on the beauty and power that resides within you. Discussing love in all its forms through conversations that provoke awareness, curiosity, and expansion, Emily shares the unlimited power of love. For more information or to listen to this show, visit lovelivingHolistics.com.
Living Lighter Radio with Jason and Patricia. We have an ecosystem approach to your life. Tune in weekly every Monday at 1 p.m. Pacific on Transformation Talk Radio as we, Jason and Patricia, discuss what's truly holding you back. We offer you the tools you need to reach your goals and at the same time be living lighter. For more information about Living Lighter, visit www.livinglighter.org.
Miss any shows during the week? Don't worry, we've got you covered. With the free Transformation Talk Radio app, you'll have access to all of the past week's shows in the palm of your hand. Yeah! Tune in to Transformation Talk Radio anywhere you go with our free app for any of your devices. Check out our app in the App Store and Google Play Store today.
Hi, this is Laura Richer, host of On the Verge Radio. Sometimes you hear encouraging messages like transform your life now, become empowered, create the life you crave, and it all seems overwhelming and you're not sure where to start. I'm here to tell you that self-improvement is not always fun and easy, but it is always worth it. The path to creating positive changes begins with releasing the things that have been holding you back. Then you can create a life that inspires you. I know this because I've done it. You can find out more about what I do by visiting my website, seattlehealinghypnosis.com. I look forward to supporting you on your journey.
Everybody, we're back on Cultural Brilliance Radio. I'm Claudette Rowley. Claude Silver and I, who's the Chief Heart Officer at VaynerMedia, been having a really interesting conversation about how do you create a culture of belonging? What's the role of empathy? How are people responsible for their own growth and development? And Claude and VaynerMedia have done such a great job of weaving that through, it sounds like, every aspect of their culture and business. So, Claude, for people who are listening and thinking, I'd like some of that, what are some things people can be thinking about, resources, first steps, anything you could share in terms of recommendations?
Yeah, fantastic. So I think the first recommendation is something that we can all do this minute, which is to communicate. Mm-hmm. That's the first thing.
Yeah.
If you are a manager or you're in some kind of superior position, you want to listen. Mm-hmm. That's the first thing. And if you are a person that needs to get something off your chest or you're confused or to communicate, we forget to do that.
Oh yeah.
We really, really do. So I like to start there as a common denominator, one that we can all do. It takes a lot of courage. And so I think, as Brene Brown says it so well, vulnerability is an act of strength. Showing our cards is not a bad thing. Mm-hmm. Showing our cards is, I think, very healthy. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying spill the beans on your entire life story, but letting someone in, because that opens the door to empathy. Mm-hmm. Letting someone know that you've been there. They are not alone. No one needs to feel alone when they come to work. They really don't. So communication, vulnerability, courage is really around there. There are some resources that I like. There are books that I can certainly recommend. I think You Are a Badass is a phenomenal book. Anything Brene Brown writes is a phenomenal book.
Yeah.
Those things are terrific. And the other thing is coaching. Mm-hmm. Whether or not it is you doing formal coaching or getting someone to hiring someone, I think it's important to have someone outside of work and probably outside of your personal life to bounce things with. Mm-hmm. And that they're objective, and so these are all fairly interpersonal things I'm talking about. But and the last thing is something that is super important. Again, we can all do it, is energy management. Mm-hmm. So, time management is something we've all been taught to do. Whether or not we can anymore with work-life balance, I can't speak to that. But we can all manage our energy. We all know when we're starting to see red. We all know when we need a break from the screen. We all know how to set milestones for ourselves. So, finish that paper, figure out that deliverable, take a 10-minute walk, look at your Instagram if you want, go have a coffee, go say hi to someone. Those are just like some basics.
The basics, yeah. And I love that you started with listening. One of the sayings I like to use is listen to what you hear versus what you had hoped to hear or wanted to hear. Because I find there are sometimes people without realizing it, they get caught in, they don't want to listen to what they're hearing, right? Because it's painful and uncomfortable, or they just had a bad day and they can't take it, right? So they listen for something else.
Yeah.
And they miss important information. Yeah.
So, right. I would have said active listening.
Yeah.
Really like holding space, trying to be as non-judgmental and just being present, and then catch what they're saying and go from there. But let them say it.
Actually,
let it land.
Right. And accept it. That's the other part I talk about. Like, be curious and accept it. Which doesn't mean you agree with it, of course.
Curiosity is enormous.
Yeah,
I think I would add that to the list. Curiosity is so important to just ponder, even if it's for microseconds, what that person said, what that experience might be like.
Yeah. Go ahead. No, the vulnerability, Brene Brown, who I'm also a big fan of, talking about it as an act of courage. And when you said that, with the image that was coming up for me of the scenario, I thought of as the person who goes to work and they share something, like you said, not their whole life story, but something, a family member who's diagnosed with an illness, or, something that will impact them a lot. And they don't, and maybe they feel like safe to do it. And then they get emotionally betrayed when they find out that someone puts them down later. Right. And, this person was weak. Can you believe he blah, blah, blah. Right.
Yeah. Retaliation.
Yeah.
And all kinds of stuff. I mean, I was just thinking while you were talking, we were talking about belonging in the last segment. And I was thinking about the day when we had Sandy Hook.
Yes. Yeah.
And some of the real big national events that have happened here while I've been in this role, and what it's been like to watch the climate change. And some people really, really sensitive and needing a lot of TLC, and other people, just like, that's cool. I don't really, you voted for that person. I voted for this person. And it's been really interesting to watch how we weave with one another, and sometimes disagree with one another. I do think that Vayner Allies, the program I was talking about, is really going to help us just be, help us understand other without having that judgmental piece.
Yeah. And I would even, part of it sounds like part of the other too, because there are so many kinds of other, is someone who really has an incredibly different viewpoint than you do. Yeah. And that can actually be okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
It can coexist.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. And this so communication, right? It's so fun because we communicate all day long, of course. You're talking about a certain kind of communication.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I am. I mean, I don't have rosy colored sunglasses on, but the way I see the world is through eyes that can see the distinction between when we're operating out of love and when we're operating out of fear, and what then comes out of our mouth when we're operating from those places. I would like to think that I operate from love primarily, and my remit here is to spread that. And one of the ways to spread that is listening and communicating. And learning how to, as you said, actively listen and speak in a way where I'm not taking up all the room and taking up all the air in the room, giving people space to voice their opinions, asking questions, being curious. Communication is so key, and we learn it as infants, and somewhere along the line we take some weird turns with it, and it can really, I think it could be very detrimental, and then you have to dig yourself out of that hole. So, golden rule is where I come from.
Yeah.
When it comes to life, but when it comes to communication.
Yeah. Totally. So Claude, I want to thank you so much for being here today for this great conversation.
Thank you so much, Claudette. Appreciate it.
Oh, my pleasure. And everybody listening, thank you so much. Thanks for tuning in to Cultural Brilliance Radio. As always, we had a great time. Please join us every twice a month on the second and fourth Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern and 10 a.m. Pacific. And we'll be back in a couple of weeks, so we'll see you then.
You've been listening to the hit show Cultural Brilliance Radio, the DNA of organizational excellence with Claudette Rowley. Conversations that are transforming the world of culture and business. You can download this podcast and find out more about Claudette and her breakthrough work at ClaudetteRowley.com. Please contact Claudette and find out how you can create a brilliant culture